All right, hello. Hi guys. Hopefully we're live right now. We should be. Let me check YouTube real quick. But for you guys that did not watch the announcement for the Q&A video, this is going to be ranking all the A Song of Ice and Fire books because I've done them, but you guys have not, and that's what's important. Hi Big L. Interesting name you have, but how's it going? Hi Evie, I saw you in chat earlier, by the way. But yeah, we're gonna be going through this whole list. We're gonna be going through the main series books, so I got them all down here. And then we got a World of Ice and Fire, and then we're also gonna do Fire and Blood and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So that's the Duncan Egg novellas for people that don't know. And we're gonna go through all those. We're gonna put them in S, A, B, C, D, F. What I don't think any of these will be in F. I think the only one that maybe even gets close to F is A World of Ice and Fire. Maybe. I'm talking on my ass. I don't know. Hi, Starman. How are you? I'm doing good. But yeah, so we have a pretty simple stream. It's probably going to be a quicker stream just based upon there's not a lot on here. Maybe we do the seasons of Game of Thrones at some point. I kind of just put them down here. Also, I don't know why whoever made this tier list put Winds of Winter in here, because we haven't gotten Winds of Winter. So I don't know how you would ever judge this, so I just put it down there. I didn't really understand that one. But we're going to go in order. So we're going to go from the main series. We'll go through all 5 of those, and then we'll do kind of the extra lore material stuff. Hi, Ashley. How are you? Also, we did this stream an hour earlier. For one reason, because I wanted the video that was coming out today to, like, not also come out when the stream comes out. Because usually when that happens, I've realized that one of the two does not get a notification to send out. So I decided we'll just kind of split it up a little bit, just so it's not all the content being shoved down your throat. Also, I don't think this stream will probably be longer than an hour anyway, because again, it's pretty short. There's not a lot of stuff we're actually ranking, but we'll try to talk through a lot of them. But yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys do for these, because for me personally, now I've done these in the past. I always have a Clash of Kings being my top. I like personally, right? If I was going to rank these, if I was going to do it by the tier, I think there's 2 in this one. I think there are 2 in A tier. I think there's 2 in B tier. Or no, 3 in B tier and then 1 in C tier. I think that's how I'd do it, but I'm not going to tell you which ones they are because I don't want to influence you guys in the way that you're going to do it. I'm cold. My part of Washington got a crap ton of snow. You hate to see that, Ashley. It's been pretty cold where I live as well in Illinois. No way it got really small. Yes, it's out. Go to your local store. What's up, bro? Notifications don't work and you always start a bit. Okay. Water, I usually start like 4 minutes early. But this one I started a whole hour early because I usually start, for me, I usually start at 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. And I did this stream at 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time. It'll be the same for the stream on Wednesday as well for the 2K subscribers. Thank you, Water, by the way. So I guess I will start up the first poll. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, okay, as we're doing these, that remember, in this tier list, if you're putting them on S tier, right, you're theoretically putting them on the same tier as another book. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that it's not like, okay, I personally, right, love every single book on this, like, little thing down here outside of A World of Ice and Fire. I think it's pretty, like, it's not needed, really. So I want you to keep that in mind, that you will have to probably be kind of strict on where you're placing these. So, yeah. Is Glossy here? I don't know. I just started the stream, so I would probably say not. So let's talk about a Game of Thrones. So what is really good about a Game of Thrones that maybe would sway you towards S or A? In my opinion, Game of Thrones is a very strong start, and it's quite different than some of the other books where Game of Thrones is more of a mystery. It's the whole idea of what is going on in King's Landing and unraveling the chaos that's going on there. And we see that through Ned's eyes. And that's what makes a Game of Thrones really good. Because then when we transition to another book like A Clash of Kings with Tyrion or other characters in King's Landing, we understand what the shit show is going on there. And we see a different way of handling those issues. So I think Game of Thrones does a really good job of that. But what I've also seen from a Game of Thrones is it does a great job of foreshadowing things very subtly and introducing this really big world slowly. Like, not slowly as in the pacing is slow, but it doesn't throw everything at you very quickly, right? And yeah, Starman, that is a very good chapter you are referencing. I'm excited to get back into the series. I like when I was doing my planning out for the 25 Winds of Winter like series I'm doing for December, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do a double upload on Tuesdays, but I just thought it was too much. Like as of right now, I'm so far ahead on videos that the videos you'll be seeing like next week, I've already recorded. Like they've already been recorded and edited. Like they're already like up ready to be like released. So, I don't know. I'm going to lose it when Jon and Arya see each other again. Yeah. That will be a very emotional time. But a Game of Thrones as well as it does a great job of putting a bunch of characters in places that it doesn't feel forced. Like, because we need a POV character at the wall. Jon going there, it doesn't really feel forced. It feels natural. Having Ned go south everything feels very natural about the book to set up the future. And what I will talk about a lot with the Game of Thrones compared to Feast or even Dance is that a Game of Thrones, I think, has more intrigue to it because they're very similar. They're very much books that are building up towards a conflict. And they have their own, within each book, their own mini, like, climaxes. So Ned staging his coup and then dying, or Jon's interaction with the White Walkers, or him even, like, thinking he should abandon the wall. Things like that. So there's kind of a lot going on with a lot of these storylines. Daenerys hatching the dragons, where I feel like the reason a Game of Thrones to me, for a lot of people, has resonated more and been more liked than A Feast for Crows and Dance of Dragons is because you see a lot more highs, and I think the storytelling is much more narrowed in on like a couple main characters, whereas those two books expand the world even more than we already have. And because of that, it almost at times doesn't feel like there's a clear focus when there really is. It just takes much longer to get there. Where, as you think about it, with Feast for Crows, to get the big plot climaxes of Feast for Crows, most of those are in Dance. So you really have to read over 2,000 pages to get really the conclusions to a lot of the arcs from Feast, which is something that I think hurts Feast a lot, even though I really love Feast and I really love Dance as well. It's going to be amazing, like, all the way, and Bravo still has memories of Jon. Agreed. It has a great descriptive world, but yes. So I would also compare Game of Thrones a lot to Fellowship of the Ring in the way that they were able to, Tolkien and Martin were able to introduce us into this world that is very complex, a ton of history, and doing it in a way that never felt like the story was dragging on, but it felt like we were being introduced to something new around every corner. And that's why I really love this book, and I also love Fellowship of the Ring. If you guys ever asked me to like rank my top favorite like books, Fellowship of the Ring would be up there. And I don't feel that for the next two books in like the Lord of the Rings series. I love them both still, but it never like hits that peak of a Fellowship of the Ring. I'm here, but won't be active for like 15 minutes. I was in the middle of reading Berserk and can't find my bookmark, so I'm gonna just finish. Fair enough. You do what you got to do, Water. I really wish Rob would have been a... So somebody asked me, I don't remember who asked me, a question for the Q&A, what character I would have loved to see a POV of, and Rob is always going to be my answer for that. But I wouldn't say I wanted the POV to be in a Game of Thrones. I think I would have loved a POV of Rob in a Clash of Kings where he is in the Westerlands. Because in that whole idea is we don't get any POVs. We just hear about the Westerlands events through Catelyn or other characters. And we don't know the events that happen really. Like we do, but we don't. Like we don't know what was going on inside Rob's head when he decides to sleep with Jane. We don't know the thought process there. Like we do, but we don't. It would be really cool to be inside of Rob's head figuring out why he decides to do certain actions in the Westerlands and how he even gets injured, which would be really cool. I'm surprised you like A Feast for Crows, given your anti-Darkstar sentiment. Okay, I don't hate Darkstar, all right? Like, I just felt like, I feel like, okay, I don't know. Okay. We're not even going to talk about it, Ashley. That's for another video. I will say, I'm doing a Darkstar video on the 15th of December, so I hope that pleases you, Ashley. I would love a Rob POV personally, but I think the mystery of him makes him more interesting too. I agree, but I disagree. I think Rob compared to Show Rob is not nearly as popular. Like, Show Rob was, I think, the fan favorite of, like, maybe not the fan favorite, but he was like he was in that conversation of like Danny, John, and those. Now, I think giving Rob just one POV chapter could have gone a long way to making him more of a likable character. Like, he's already a very likable character, I think, for the most part, but I think adding a POV would have really gone a long way for his character. Strong anti-Darkstar bias, maybe. Maybe it's not, maybe it has nothing to do with Darkstar. Maybe it's because I don't like House Dane. It's not even true. I don't even, like, dislike House Dane. It's that I just hate the Ned Nashar theory that much that I just, like, it just trickles into that family. If Rob had a POV, I would have liked to see his relationship with Greywind and the way they work together when fight. That would be another really interesting point to talk about Eevee as well. We're tied at S and A, so I'm just gonna let it go for a little bit longer. Conspiracy theory. Rob jumped from Greywind to Jane's baby and will be resurrected and reborn and wins. I'm calling it. Starman, that would be crazy. I would kind of love to see that, just to see what happens there, but, you know. Big L, Darkstar is freaking amazing. I don't know if I go that far, Ashley. I mean, he's pretty, like, he's pretty okay. Like, he hasn't really been developed enough. A Game of Thrones has to be S tier. I think you can make the argument that it can be S tier. I think for me, if I was going to place it, I think I'd do A tier. I think there are only 2 books for me that are S tier. You hate House Dane. No, okay, let me take that back. I don't hate House Dane. Like, I think Arthur Dane, very interesting character, and I like him as a character. But then Ashara, I'm like, she's such a, like, massive character to so many people that I'm just like, Like, I don't know. To me, my feelings toward House Dane basically come off of just the Ned Nashar theory, because outside of that, like, House Dane is a very minor house for the majority of the story. Like, they're just not. And I think George had planned to do more with House Dane, but I think because of the split, I think it actually did hurt that plot line. And I think it would have helped Darkstar's character. I think George initially had way more for Darkstar, but I think because of the 5-year gap, I think he decided probably not to go that route. Now, I do think we're going to see Darkstar play a role in the next book, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as massive as I think a lot of people are speculating. I agree with that, Starman. I won't go as far as saying the Ned Nashar theory is BS, because it does have stuff that backs it up. I just don't think it's nearly as strong as R plus L, but I don't know. We're not getting into that talk. We could have an entire stream on that. Yeah. You guys can think what you want to think. I'll think what I think, and eventually we'll figure out after that. Ander, that's probably what I meant. Edric Dane. Because I remember hearing something about, like, it was either Darkstar or Edric Dane where George was talking and he was like on the 5-year gap. So yeah, you're probably right on that, Ander. Don't start with the Ashara slander. House Dane is barely exactly goes, and this is one of my leading causes of evidence for why I don't think it's Ashara and Ned. And I've talked about this a lot. If you look at Ashara specifically, Arthur Dane's a different topic. Arthur Dane's brought up much more than Ashara is. Ashara is only mentioned in the book like 5 times. Not like 5 times. She is mentioned 5 times. So, I don't know. Hi, JS. Holgerson, is that how you say it? How are you? Darkstar is Oberyn's son. It is known. Okay. Ashley, give me your evidence for that. I'm curious what's your evidence for that. What interests me, I gotta take my mouse off of the chat. That was like, that would bother me if I was watching it. What interests me the most about House Dane is the Sword Dawn, because it is, yeah, so that is the one thing that does interest me the most about House Dane is their Sword Dawn and how it relates to prophecy as well. But I am interested to know that. Okay, so I guess a Game of Thrones, we're gonna go ahead and put in S. For now, you guys have voted it into S. We may revisit that in the future. Personally, I don't know if I would do that because, for me, right, I think that A Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords are personally the best 2 books. But A Game of Thrones to me is a little too short. It doesn't have the highs of either one of those books. That I probably wouldn't put in S, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it being an S, though. I don't mind it. Okay, so Clash of Kings. Now, I have mentioned quite a lot. This is my favorite book, so I'm interested to see where you guys put this book. But for me, this is my favorite book, and I think a lot of you guys know why. It's the big Stannis book, really, is what goes on in this book. I like Tyrion's plot. I really love Jon's plot. I really like everything about this, or about not about the stream, about the book. Oberyn can't have boys. Oh boy. A Song of Ice and Fire is a very good story. It's just I feel George created too many characters to the point where we worry about major characters that might not have a big. Yeah. So I do get that, Ghosty, with what your sentiment is here. And I kind of agree to the point that I think Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring, it's been so much harder to bring all of his characters together, wrap up all of these plot lines or things that maybe he foreshadowed in the past, that I do kind of agree with you on that. And I love that we get to see more of these cultures in Feast for Crows. Right? I love that we get to see the Greyjoys. I love that we get to see Dornish plot and expanding on them and seeing what Dorne is like, because of how awesome of a character Oberyn was in the past book. But I do think with George wanting to finish the story in 2 books, it has made it a little bit more difficult to wrap it all up. I thought the stream was at 8. So, Young Wolf, I'm not sure if you're referencing the normal stream time, because I never stream at 8. So, for me, personally, US Central Time, I usually stream at 7. Now, for streams I'm going to be doing until after Christmas, so right after Christmas, they'll go back to their normal, but I'm going to be doing 6 p.m. streams, so 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time. I don't know what that would be in your time zone. I'm going to be doing them at 6, so the stream Wednesday will also be 6. Bran's storyline in Clash was so boring. I think Bran's storyline was just boring in general. I think I didn't actually mind him in Clash. I didn't like him even more in Storms, so I don't know. I always forget about Bran, though, because his storyline's kind of forgettable. Actually, now that I think about Clash, Dany and Bran are definitely the low points of that book. Stannis is better in Storm. He's good in Storm, but I like Stannis much more when he's in power. Like, he's because book 2 is about him achieving his power, leading up to this big climactic battle for his plot line, and then him losing. I kind of like that. I like that story more than I like his Storm story. But his Storm story is very good as well. We need to do a POV character tier list. Let me write that down. That is a great idea. We may do that next week. Let me bring that up. Let me write that down. Let me get back to my little Sherlock Holmes notebook thingy. Okay. So, POV character list. That'd be another interesting one, because I don't know how you guys would do that. If you guys would rank that based upon how much you guys like the character or the actual story that's being told through their POV, because Catelyn's a very hot topic there, where Catelyn, in my opinion, is one of the best POVs in the entire story. But as a person and her character, I'm not the biggest fan of. So I'd be interested to see what you guys think on that one. Ain't no way it's getting done in 2 books. I think the next book's just gonna be really long. I agree, Evie. I love that about book 2. 2 big books, that is correct. Big L. A Clash of Kings is so underrated. I agree. My issue with Dorne is that you could cut them out of the story and tie it with another house, and all would be way more efficient. The Hightowers could easily take the place of the Dornish. I don't know, but I wouldn't go that far, Ramiro. I see what you're saying, but I don't know if I'd go that far. It's 8 for me. I'm in Eastern time, so it's usually at 8. Oh, okay. So yeah, I was gonna do that, but now yeah, it'll be 7 for probably about for the next 3 weeks. The next 3 weeks it'll be that. Yeah, it's hard to finish a book series when you keep on adding more story plots in each book. Don't get me wrong, yeah, agreed. And then Ghost, I completely understand what you're saying, and I agree. Definitely, I could definitely see Winds of Winter being split up into 2 books. I could definitely see that as well. Thank you, by the way, Ramiro. And Dance Bran is interesting. Personally, I don't find Bran that interesting in Dance, but I definitely could see how you would. That is okay. I do love the preview chapter that we do get of Stannis for his Winds of Winter stuff. I could see that, Holgerson. I could see that. I have read the series by going by POV characters, and Davos are one of my favorites to go back and reread because we learned so much. Agreed, Evie. Davos is like, if I was just going off, if I wasn't being objective, I was just saying my favorite. Davos is probably my favorite. I also agree with this, Andrew. I think Stannis' story will peak in Winds of Winter. I 100% agree with that. Okay, understandable, Ashley, understandable. I do kind of agree with you. Tywinette Lannister. You have an odd name, but I like your name. House of the Undying is the only thing, in my opinion, that saves Daenerys in this book, in Clash of Kings. I think outside of that, she is probably my second least favorite POV in that book. She not only feels like so far away from our main story, where it feels like the heights of the story are being built up, where Daenerys is she's just kind of like walking around, and then she like gets to car. She's just, for me, Daenerys, like, this book is very much a big setup for her next book, which I think is her best book. I think Storm is easily Daenerys' best book for me, and the most interesting, but yeah. And I will say, I think for most casual fans, I do think that our old POVs, our old characters that are given POVs, like Jaime and Cersei, do hold up Feast a little bit, which I do think is interesting that George didn't give us one of the other big 3 in this book, which I understand why he didn't. But I think because he kept Jon, Dany, and Tyrion all in one book, it made Feast feel like a very weird book. Like, I couldn't imagine when Feast for Crows first come out. Like, you get done with Storm of Swords, you wait a couple years, Feast for Crows comes out. And you go to sit down to read it, and you go, where's Jon, Daenerys, or Tyrion? Like, that's a very odd feeling. And to me, I will say, though, with that being said, I do think the Greyjoy plot, for me, especially the early parts of it, leading up to the Kingsmoot, is probably actually my favorite part of Feast for Crows. So, for me, I would probably disagree with you on that, but I think for a lot of people, that's actually very true. Okay, I like your theory, Ashley. I like your theory. Jesse, I hated Cersei's POV. I just wanted her to die already. I can't reread a Game of Thrones anymore. It just pisses me off seeing the Lannisters win. Fair enough, Jesse. Fair enough. So this is what I talked about. I recorded a Bran video because that's another video I'm going to be doing during this like a little event thing. And Bran is set up to be a very intriguing character. And Bran's a character that I think is going to almost fill into a Littlefinger/Varys role, where we're not going to have POV of him anymore because, again, he's going to have all of this knowledge that we really can't be inside of his head. It just wouldn't work thematically, in my opinion. So I am a little bit excited to see where Bran goes. Also, that Young Wolf is correct, by the way. I put down the book entirely when they killed him off page in Feast. Wait, killed who off in... Ethar, who are you talking about, actually? I'm maybe I was talking about somebody that you were, or I was talking about, but who are you talking about, actually, on that? Stannis and Manus, we'd love to see that. I don't really like book Dany yet. I have a love-hate relationship with Dany in the books, where I like her a decent amount, and then there's other chapters where I'm just like, yeah, not a fan. Clash is the book I remember the least. Fair enough, Ander. There are a lot of forgettable things in Clash. Like, I think Daenerys' whole entire plot is pretty forgettable. Besides the House of the Undying. I agree, Starman. I agree. Hi, Hugo. How are you? Greyjoy's better than the Martells. I would agree with that. I like the Greyjoy plot more than I like the Martell plot. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know if that is or not. But for me, I do like the Greyjoys better. In that storyline, I guess. Dab. Oh, okay. Okay, Ethar. Okay. I just wasn't following there for a second. I agree. I think Asha's character, for me, is a character I'm really looking forward to and wins. I hope she doesn't die. I'm not predicting she's going to die like early on or anything, but I'm really excited to see where George goes with her character because she's set up to be a very intriguing character. Because when we look at Asha, when she goes to the Kingsmoon, and she's basically like, yeah, we can make an alliance with the North and all these things. And when you really think about it, that's a very naive thing. Like, it's a very progressive thing for the Greyjoys, but it's also very naive. Like, or not Yara. Let's say Yara. Asha, I don't think she fully understands how much the North actually hates her family. Like, it made sense when Theon and Robb Stark were like, okay, you know, let's make an alliance and we'll go against the Lannisters. Now it's like, okay, everybody just hates you now. Like, you betrayed them. I don't know. It's very interesting, and I think Asha will kind of learn from all these like mistakes her family has either made in the past with Baelon, her father. And I really like the way her character is kind of is just maybe gonna go. Asha is, I think, a very fun character for George to write. I think she's a very fun character for me to read at times. So, yeah. These people really chose Ariane. I mean, I don't blame people, though, because Ariane is actually going to my favorite plot of Winds of Winter, which is Young Griff plot. So, actually, I can see why they would choose that. All right, so A Clash of Kings will be an A. As much as it breaks my heart to put A Clash of Kings in A, it will go into A. Now, this is the book that I think is going to be put in S regardless, because every time I've done a poll, right, every single time I have done a poll, this has been everybody's favorite book. And I don't blame you if this is, but I will say this is probably my second favorite book. I would put A Clash above this for me. But I'm expecting this probably is going to go into S. Hi, Huxler. How are you? Didn't notice Rob had invaded the West in my first read. Clash is good, but goes way into tell, not show. Kind of the anti-dance / feast and how much it shows certain important stuff. That is a good point. This is one thing that I always think that I talked about earlier in the stream is that I really feel like there should have been a POV with Rob, or maybe somebody with Rob in when he's in the West, because there's a lot that just kind of happens off screen, right? Like if you look at let's take a look at the pacing of the show and then take out all of the things that end up happening within the show, right? So if we look at it from this point of view, let's say out of nowhere, Rob just shows up one episode, like he went west, and he just comes back. He's got this woman that's like basically his wife now, and we never saw it on screen. It would be kind of weird. So I don't know. Thank you for the super chat, Ethar. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support as always. The way George intertwines different ideas of love and Storm makes it a personal favorite from familiar love, romance, sexual love. That is one of the things I think George does really well. And using love is something that can lead you down a bad path, but also shows how people, when they are in love, can be blinded by things. And I think he does a very good job of showing that. So I think you're completely right there, Ether. And there's a lot of that goes on in this book. We have a lot of ideas here of love that gets broken up. We see, for instance, right, the major thing we have with Tyrion's plot is the whole Taisha thing, and at the big reveal later on in the book when Jaime basically kind of tells him that he lied to Tyrion, all these things. There's a lot of things like that. We have Jon and Ygritte going on. There's a lot of arcs that are like about romance and love and how that can betray you. Hell, we even see the Walder Frey stuff with the Red Wedding lead to that idea as well, that because Robb breaks his oath, and maybe it wasn't even for love, but because of that, sexual love like you talked about, we have the Red Wedding, even though there was more going into it. Third favorite fantasy book in general for me. That's pretty big praise. I mean, there's a lot of fantasy books. I think the show did better with Robb's character. I felt more, yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people have always talked about. Is I think Robb is one of the more improved characters, from the book to show. Now, I will say, with that being said, Robb is a bit more dumb in the show, where I like that we see more of Robb, and Robb becomes way more likable because we get more of Robb, and we see the world a little bit through Robb. He is inherently more dumb on the show. Like in the show, he actively like breaks his oath to Walder Frey. Like in the books, it's a bit different, where Robb is, he's had this wound. He's young. He's only 15, or is he 16 at this point? 15 or 16. And he has a weakened point, and he sleeps with Jane Westring. And we also are led to imply that I think there is a possibility that Jane was told this or placed there for that very reason by the Westerling family. So when you kind of put all these things together, it is a much more interesting idea with Robb and how he breaks his oath to Walder Frey and the Freys. So I will say that, but I think the show, I did like they explored his character. Nah, make it fourth. I like a Game of Thrones a bit more. That's interesting, Ramiro. So this is something I didn't know, especially going into the book series without a community. I always just figured that a Game of Thrones was probably third or fourth for a lot of people. I'm kind of surprised a lot of you guys have it, as high as it is. It is a very good book, don't get me wrong, but when you look at the length of it compared to a lot of the other books within this book series, it actually is, I think, the shortest. It is a lot of like building, which, I love Game of Thrones, but I personally would probably have it third for me. Where do whores go? We'll see if Tyrion finds out that question. Get hammed or hamed. How do you even say that? Hamed? Hammed? I don't know. Robb was dumber in the that is correct, Andrew. He was. I love how diverse certain types of love are. Kat and Tywin both love their children, but that's another idea of love, of like parental love. How do certain characters go about doing that? How does Cersei go about being a mother to her children? It's a very interesting idea, and we see a lot of bad parent relationships. Storm of Swords is the greatest book ever written. I could see that. It's a very good book. It's in my top 3 books of all time. Benioff and Wise deliberately changed Rob's essence because they wanted to write a romance since Richard Madden was cast. Interesting. Interesting. I never knew that. That is interesting. Hey, restart. No worries, Matthew. I started the stream not really early because I kind of said I was gonna do it at 6, but like it's earlier than I usually do it. Rob was only expanded so Richard could be shown off. I like that though, because Richard Madden, I think, is a fantastic actor. So yeah, I think he's a really good actor, and I'm glad that they gave him more time. Even though Richard Madden really does not look like Rob at all. Like he doesn't, or Richard Madden doesn't look like Rob at all. Like, just Rob is supposed to be having like more auburn hair. Like, he doesn't really have that. Like, Rob has like the darker hair, or Richard Madden has the darker hair. Doesn't point out that Rob is a child fighting a war. The part in Thrones where he tries to confess his doubt to his mother makes me... Yeah, that's another thing, is that the show really goes about aging characters up a bit more. Like, and when you really think about it, like, put yourself in a lot of characters' shoes. Danny's shoes, Rob's shoes. They are so young when they are put into power or this or that. I mean, even if you... Okay, Viserys, right? Talk about him in a Game of Thrones. He's a character that has been on the run, and he's been promised the crown and all these things. He's very young. That you almost kind of feel... Like, I kind of feel for Viserys that because of his upbringing and because of the way he has had to live his life, it's kind of... It changed him into the person he is. And that's not for the best. But it's very interesting to see how much these characters have to grow up quicker than they would in a world like today. Like, could you think about a 15-year-old being named King of the United States, King of the United Kingdom? Like, wow. Like, just wow. Wish they didn't make Rob die because of lust in the show. That's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good point, Water. Hammed? Okay. Do you think Winds will be more similar to Dance or Storm? I think Winds will be more similar to Storm. Because I think it's really... What George is doing is he's repeating history almost. Where I wouldn't actually compare Winds to Storm. I would compare Winds to Clash. Because what Clash does is it moves along the story and plot. But it also has bigger moments. It has more payoffs. More things going on, but it's not the big book. It's not the big payoff book, right? It's also setting up the next book, like we've talked about with Rob a ton, right? Where Clash is setting up a lot of the mistakes of the Starks, even more than what we saw in the first book. It's setting up Catelyn again on her mistakes. It's setting up a lot of things that will transpire in book 3 while also having a bit more payoffs in a Game of Thrones. While also having other things like Tyrion, how he goes about his ways with King's Landing and makes a lot of people hate him. Comes back to bite him in the next book. So I would say Winds of Winter is more like Clash of Kings, where it's not the big payoff book, because I think we're all expecting A Dream of Spring to be the big climactic book, very similar to A Storm of Swords. That I would actually say it's going to be more like Clash, where it has an equal amount of big payoffs, but also an equal amount of progressing the story, getting our characters places we need them to be, and setting up things for A Dream of Spring. Viserys is 100 times more tragic than Rhaegar. I honestly agree with that, Ander. I think Viserys is... The way he becomes as he ages is kind of almost a product of where he was at life. You know, like he had a father figure for a little while, like wasn't a great father figure. Like he had a mother figure or a mother. Well, I don't even know what word just came out of my mouth. He had a mother figure for a very little while, and then that's gone. Like he really was very misguided, and he became very entitled. And I don't know. I do kind of feel for Viserys, because I think if he had been in a different situation, he could have been a very different person. Game of Thrones is a book that holds up really well on its own. I will agree with you on that, Ramiro. Yep, agreed, Beelzebub. Agreed with you guys saying Bran Rickon do not look anything like that in the books. That is correct. That is true. That's true either. Where did I end up here? That is a good point, Starman, that your life expectancy much shorter, which it makes it even more insane of how long Jaehaerys ruled for and how long he lived. It makes it even more insane. By the time Robb died, he was a man grown. That is correct. I think he finally became a man and then he died instantly. Yeah, most people in the series die young. It's very rare to live to an old age. Agreed. Matthew, what did you work out today? I'm curious. I did shoulders today. What'd you do? I lost my tape measure that I was playing with. Storm also has the greatest bath scene of any book. That is correct. Fantastic scene. One of the best chapters. I did a chapter analysis on it a while ago, but one of my favorite chapters. Who's the cooler kid, Wyla Manderly or Lyanna Mormont? I gotta go with Wyla Manderly. Got to. All right. S tier, it would appear for A Storm of Swords. So we'll put that in there. And we'll move on to A Feast for Crows. So, I'm interested to see where you guys put this book as well. I don't know. This is a tough one to rank for me. Because on a tier list like this, I don't know where I'd put it. Because it's a good book, but I wouldn't put it on the level of the first three. Like, it would be around here for me, but I don't know how. I don't know. Which do you think is worse, Feast or Dance? I want a preference that I like both, but I think Feast I do think is worse. Because if you look at Dance, right? Dance has a lot of our major characters in it that we are far more invested in. It also handles a lot of our conclusions of Feast for Crows. Cersei, Jaime, Arya's in there. Like, there's... I just think, for me, that Dance is probably better than Feast. That's a good point, Starman. Yeah, we love Wyla Ash. We love her. That is true, Andrew. I agree. My private board was doing a quadrant workout. LOL. JK. Chest and shoulders today. Biceps and triceps are tomorrow. Interesting. Interesting. Matthew, I'm interested. Why do you do shoulders the day before you do your biceps? Like, I don't know. For me, I always try to do like anything involving my arms. Like, I try to like split it. Feast. Jaime, Cersei, and 2 Brienne chapters save the book for me. Fair enough. Dance is worse. Interesting. Andrew, why do you think Dance is worse? I think if you love Essos, you love Dance. If not, then not as much. I see what you're saying, Starman, because there is a lot of like Tyrion and Dany in that book, and they are in Essos. But I think there's just as much like awesome stuff in the North going on that I think it almost equals out for me a little bit. Jaime's journey to becoming a better Jaime makes it a top for me. I enjoyed every one of his chapters, and Cersei is so crazy. She's just... I agree. I think those are 2 highlights of Feast. I agree with you, Jesse. I do think a lot of Essos is boring. I think outside of like the young Griff stuff with Tyrion, it is kind of a bit boring. I think Daenerys at times can be pretty boring, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of good chapters though in Dance. Yeah, then you have Walder Frey being nearly 90 is insane to me. Cersei, Jaime, Brienne POVs, anything in Dance except Theon. Interesting, Andrew. Interesting. Ariane's Queenmaker chapter is the best in Feast. I so wish to show. Yeah, I agreed. That would have been really awesome to have seen on screen, and that's a very good chapter you're referencing, Ashley. Dance is too long, too many unnecessary chapters. I can see that as well. I work my shoulders because I focus more on my delts when I do my chest day, but I usually do things twice over. Makes sense, Matthew. I usually do shoulders, and then after that I'll usually do legs, and then after that I will do like arms, so biceps, and then after that I do an ab workout, and then do chest. A long time no see. My second fave is Feast for Crows. And fave will be Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Interesting picks, Zen. I think you will find yourself in the minority with that, but that is interesting. Isn't good old Walder above? I have no idea how old Walder Frey is. I just know he's old as shit. Jesse, Fire and Blood is F tier. You take that back. You take that back right now, Jesse. I will accept no Fire and Blood slander. Agreed, Water. Dances and Meths. Why the hell are there 1 Jamie chapter and 2 Cersei chapters? They should be in. I agree with you, Ander, but the problem, that's what I think is weird about Dance, is that Dance has a lot of the conclusions of the plots in Feast, which is why it's hard to, like, for me to put Feast above Dance. Oh, I agreed, Zen. I love all of Tyrion's chapters with Young Griff and all that. I love that. It's some of my favorite of the entire book. Fair enough, Ghosty. Never. Whatever you say, Jesse. Whatever you say. Okay, so we have quite a split here. I think we're going to do another poll. We're going to do this again, but we're going to have only 2 options. We're going to have either B or C, because most of you guys were kind of leaning in that direction. So we'll go B or C. If you guys want it higher than C, then vote in that. Makes sense, Matthew. Makes sense. Cersei alone. Okay. All right. I like Cersei's POVs, but they do kind of get repetitive to a degree. Barristan's POV is very good. Agreed. I like Barristan's POV. I think he's a very good character just in general. Would you rather take Fire and Blood 2 or Winds but no Dreams? Can only Winds of Winter. No, it's not even Zen, and not even a conversation for me. As much as I love Fire and Blood, I think it's because of the time period. I think Fire and Blood 2 I'm still gonna really like, but I don't think I'm gonna like it as much as Fire and Blood, because I just like the time period of the dragons. It's put it this way. So Star Wars, we always get to some other not fantasy, but other series. I really love the prequels because of the time period. I love the Clone Wars, that era of Star Wars. But I also love the originals as well, just not as much. That's kind of how I feel about Fire and Blood Part 1 and Part 2. C is wild. I kind of think so too. I think I'd probably put it B minus. But Bravos is pretty cool too. Yeah, Bravos. I kind of like Bravos. I like that George was willing to take back some of our major characters like Sansa and Arya and not overplay them like the show did. The show focuses too much on those characters, and we didn't need to. It's supposed to be about those characters learning, growing. We don't need to see a lot of that. Just check in on them every once in a while, like George does in those books. And I think that's fine. Makes sense, Matthew. It seems like kind of the consensus for a Feast for Crows. I put Feast in S, but I'll pick B since that's the highest option. Fair enough, Ashley. I'm sorry, but not everybody agreed with you. Hi, Casper. I'm crazy enough to love Dark Souls 2, but not as much as to give Feast a B. Maybe B minus. Oh, okay. I didn't read this question correctly, Zen. Well, okay, here's my thing. Let me reread this question. I gotta make sure I get this. So I take. So do I get Fire and Blood 2 right now? Okay, so okay, Zen. if I choose Fire and Blood Part 2, right? Is there a chance I get Winds of Winter? Or is it just I'm only getting Fire and Blood Part 2? Is this going to be a shorter stream? I mean, whenever we get done with the tier list, then we'll stop the stream, but... Makes sense, random stuff. That is interesting, Ander, and maybe he should have stuck with that, not adding any more POVs. Okay, so Zen, you're saying basically I have to choose Fire and Blood Part 2 or Winds of Winter knowing I'm never going to get Dream of Spring. Well, in that case, I'm still going to pick Winds of Winter because, yes, maybe it'll never get finished. But if you're saying that, oh, if I get Fire and Blood Part 2, I'm still not going to get Winds, then I can at least still probably get Fire and Blood Part 2. So I'll get both of them anyway. I don't know. Today's stream is sponsored by PC Sparkling Water. I actually don't have any Aquafina that's full for the stream. So enjoy this empty water bottle that I forgot to put in the trash. That's everybody stay hydrated is very important. I was never that stoked for Fire and Blood, and less so for Part 2, but reading about the 3rd and 4th Blackfire Rebellions hypes me quite a bit. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, Fire and Blood Part 2, but I'm not as excited, I guess. Makes sense, random stuff. Makes sense. Yeah, that's the dilemma. But if you get okay, but here's the thing. Zenbook. If I pick Winds of Winter, then that means you didn't say I'm not getting Fire and Blood Part 2. That means I get both anyway. What's your favorite time period in the A Song of Ice and Fire series? I really love the Blackfire Rebellion event. I hope we get a spin-off on that. So I'm gonna take your question and not be basic with it. So I would just say the normal story time period I like the best. But I will say if I'm gonna pick another time period outside of that, I would pick the Dance of the Dragons, or basically what we're getting in House of the Dragon right now. That has always been my favorite time period. It has the most like Maester conspiracy type shit going on that we've gotten so far. I love a lot of the characters that are introduced into it. So yeah. You will for sure get a show on the Fire and Blood 2 in future House of Dragon season, which covers the Blackfire Rebellion. But if you get wins but no dreams, there's no prospect for any shows or an ending. I'm still taking it. I'm still taking wins, or I don't know. I don't even know, Zen. You've got me confused now. Can we get wins instead of snow, please? Yeah. Okay, okay. I lost my soul, okay? So I finished my re-watching of the seasons of A Game of Thrones with my friends. And by the time we got to the end, they were like, it's bad, but it's not as bad as you guys are all, like, because me and one of my other friends have watched all, and and we always said it's terrible. It's bad. And they were like, it's not good, but it's like 5 out of 6. Like, it's all right. And I'm just like, get out. Like, it hurt my soul. I was like, dude, because I'm sitting here pointing out all the stupid shit in this, and they're just like, it's okay. I'm just like, whatever. I'm just curious how far George is going to take Fire and Blood Part 2. I can't see him going past Summerhall. I agree. I don't think he'll go that far. Do you have any strong opioids? A fellow Sunrise and Fire fan guild this? Not really. I mean, I've like watched some of her opinions. Opinions of fellow. Okay, I have watched some of Gildis's videos. I just haven't really recently. I just haven't had time. I don't really watch a lot of other Song of Ice and Fire YouTubers anymore. I used to a lot. Like before I created my YouTube channel, I used to watch a lot of other YouTubers a lot. Like I would watch Order of the Green Hand a lot. I would watch In Deep Geek a lot. I would watch Alt Shift X. I would watch some of Gildus. I just really don't anymore. And I think it's kind of the idea of when you're making a Song of Ice and Fire content as much as I am at the moment, you almost to a degree don't want to like overdo it with how much content you're either putting out or ingesting in yourself, while I'm also like researching other types of content. I don't know. But when I watched him, I thought he was good. Fair enough, Zen. And that's another thing, I guess, Zen, that is different for someone that watched it growing up. And by the time I got to the end of it, I had, you know, like when I started the show, so it's different than people that started at the very beginning. I did not start at the very beginning. I started watching fairly young. I watched it when I was like in 8th, 7th grade, right? And think about that. I had watched the show from like there until college. So I had very much grown up with these characters and with this show that I really loved. So when it was done so poorly, I guess me and a lot of the rest of the community and audience hated it for the more it was. When in reality, like they'd only watched it for a year, because we started it last winter break, so December to now like around Thanksgiving, and then we got done. So I don't know. But I don't know. It's Glidus, not my bad. I apologize. It's because they didn't get to see this. No, so this is the funny part. We actually actively looked for the Starbucks Cup because they knew about that. They knew about the Starbucks Cup, so we were trying to see it like as it was playing through, because I actually just knew that it was on the table. I didn't know what scene it was in. But that's a good point though, Young Wolf. Fair enough, Ramiro. Jon Snow, I don't want to. Yes. Odd question. Have you played the Telltale GOT game? I have not, but I've watched it before. I have no idea, Water. I have not played Elden Ring. I maybe I'll play it for the stream one day. I don't know. Early started watching 2015. I was heartbroken by the ending. Agreed, Water. Or maybe you YouTubers should write your own versions of wins a la Preston Jacobs, and we vote the best one so it becomes canon. Okay. I'll be completely honest. I would not have the time or effort to actually completely write it, so I would just go with whoever's. But yeah, like I have had issues like, so doing my rewrite of like season 5 and 6 that I've been doing, that has been a lot of like brainstorming. Like I still have like, I'm doing the next episode of that by probably the end of the year, after we get done with our Winds of Winter stuff. But yeah, writing a book is a ton of work. Now it shouldn't take you 12 to 13 years, but I mean but it is a ton of work. That is correct. All right, dance. We've had a lot of differing opinions on this one. I think some people are like they love dance, some people they don't like dance, some people are like it's okay. I'm interested to see where you guys put dance on here. Get it? Okay, maybe I will. You have to play Eternal Ring before you play Elden Ring. Okay. George R. R. Martin hates fan fiction of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't want to even read one fan fiction in case to get karma from George. Interesting that. I mean, I understand why George hates fan fiction, because it's like, it's people trying to finish what he started and he hasn't finished it yet, and blah, 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 blah. But when your book takes so long to write and your story doesn't seem near completion, you can't hate the people that do fan fiction. I'm just saying. I feel like House Forrester in the game is just a copy and paste of the Starks, but it's a good game for this show. I agree with you, Ghost T. It was an interesting like little thing that came out, but I was just like, it just kind of falls into all the issues that all the Telltale games have. It's not as good as the first 3. Agreed. Dance is only my favorite because it's mostly stuff we don't see in the show, and I was salty about the show when I read it. Fair enough. I think it's interesting that, okay, so when it was like season 5, it was when season 5 was the major thing. My dad had a friend who had the actual books of A Song of Ice and Fire. And I actually didn't read any of the books outside of, like, Dance and Feast. And when I say I read them, it was more like I picked the characters I wanted to read and wanted to see where their plot lines would go, so I knew what was going to happen at the end of season 5. So I think it's very funny that I knew John was going to die in the book before the show, but then I had no idea how the story actually got there for the most part. Like, it's very interesting when I think about, like, how I first got introduced into the books. I should have stole that guy's a copy of all the A Song of Ice and Fire books. Could have just read all of them. George hates published fanfiction where you basically get money for someone else's work, aka plagiarism. Fair enough, either, and I can see that as well. Only game that fits this channel is Elden Ring. So you know what I'm gonna do, just because you said that, Zen? One day, I'm just out of nowhere. We're gonna be like, oh, A Song of Ice and Fire discussion stream, and it's just gonna be Pokemon in the background. One day, I'm just gonna do that. I have the emulator too. I'll just put it up on screen. It wouldn't even be hard. Yeah, I feel like after 10 years, you should expect fanfic for something so popular. Agreed. I think Dance has the strengths and weaknesses of Clash. Characters who had really great highlights in Storm, like John, Tyrion, and Dany, don't do much, but the characters surrounding them are great. I can agree with that, Ether. I can agree with that. All right, it seems like you guys heavily feel like it's in B, and I kind of agree with that. High Metal, by the way. Ironic, because House of the Dragon is literally fan fiction. I completely agree with you I completely agree with you on that as well, Ander. All right, B for Dance. That didn't make it. I just thought of, you know how people are like, how to learn the alphabet, and they're like, B is for like boy or whatever, right? And then, like, I just said B is for, or B for Dance. It didn't make any sense. It's funny. So was the last few seasons of Game of Thrones. That's correct. The people who made Until Dawn should make a game they know how to do choice games. That would be really interesting. Now, my one thing with the people that created Until Dawn is that their last few games haven't really been that great, in my opinion. Like, Man of Medan was pretty meh. Was it A Little Hope after that? That game was good, and then the ending was bad. The one after that with the soldiers was pretty boring all the way through, in my opinion. It had like one good character. The hotel one, like, that they just did it, was, how do I put this? It was like, it was an interesting concept, but it wasn't executed well, in my opinion. Like, some of the decisions just seemed like, okay, very questionable on how characters die. I don't know. And then Quarry, I thought Quarry was better than the anthology games, but it wasn't Until Dawn level, if that makes sense. I don't know. I kind of agree but disagree with you on the big 3 are not that strong in Dance. I think Tyrion is very hit or miss for me. I think he's strong in some chapters, not strong in others. Jon is the same way for me. I think Dany is kind of weak throughout the whole. Even though I like the way her character journey goes, she just didn't have a lot to do. Also, I've been writing my own book for 9 months now, and I just got over 80 pages for the first draft. Got about 5 more. Well, good luck to you on your book that you're writing. What kind of book are you writing? Agreed, Ander. I think it's one of my favorite storylines, Ander. World of Ice and Fire has some nice art. I think it has nice art, but it doesn't really do much for the story. I just didn't really care about it much, honestly. It was just kind of a retrack of Fire and Blood, and I just, eh. Get BioWare, Bethesda, or Obsidian to make a proper Song of Ice and Fire RPG, or maybe Sierra Paradox can make a strategy one. Yeah, I think I would love that. And there's so much you could do within a Song of Ice and Fire RPG. Personally, I'm waiting for Dragon Age 4 to come out. I don't know if that's ever going to come out. It's been a while now. I really have always loved the Dragon Age. I wouldn't even say the Dragon Age series. I like Dragon Age 1 and I like Inquisition. I don't really like 2. Never got the tier list. In my mind, it stand for super dumb, almost super dumber, cool, dumb, and fail. Well, Metal, just think about it like this. Think about it when you're in school and you get grades. I don't know. That's the best I can tell you. I get that. I've only played Until Dawn. Shane, they seem like they knew what they were. Yeah, Until Dawn is just like, it seems like for them, right? It feels like this idea that they executed really well. Their cast of characters they did was pretty well. Like, there were actual likable characters. The decisions you made were good enough to where, like, you understood what was going to happen, or if you made the wrong choice, why that affected it. The twists were good. And then they just haven't really been able to mix that balance and make an interesting story after that. The next 2 games, spoilers for anybody that wants to play those anthology games, there's really nothing going on. There's the first one, it's a gas that makes you hallucinate. This next one, it's all a dream, basically. And then the next game, it's like they leaned all the way back in, kind of, to what they did Until Dawn, but then it was like done in just a very bad way that it just wasn't interesting. And then the last game, it was kind of like a serial killer type vibe, which was I liked, but the characters weren't strong again. So they just haven't really gotten that balance again after Until Dawn, in my opinion. Have you played? I have not. My friends have played it. I'm just not a big fan. But yeah, I have seen it though. I have no idea where the S thing came from. It's a fantasy novel about a history nut getting trapped in a sinister otherworld. Interesting. That's a very interesting concept, Ether. I have a friend that's trying to write a book, but it's like, it's very heavily inspired by Dune, and you can kind of tell. But yeah, I really, that's an interesting idea, Ether. Interesting, Ether. Interesting. I'm in the minority for liking Dragon Age 2. It's got its problems, definitely, but I thought the story was pretty good except for the mage ending. I'll be honest. For me personally, just Dragon Age 2 just felt so disconnected from Origins, and I just didn't care about the story. The characters felt kind of clunky to me, and it just didn't have the atmosphere that Dragon Age 1 had, where Dragon Age 2 kind of takes place in the same setting the entire time. And I just never felt as compelled with the Dragon Age 2's villains either. Like, Dragon Age, in my opinion, like, yes, the villains weren't as complex, but you were motivated right from the beginning of trying to get revenge on either Loghain or also this dragon, like the Darkspawn being this overarching evil. It had a lot of cool things that I really loved. Regarding World of Ice and Fire, I like some of the stuff, but it plays so much into being mysterious and vague that it gets a bit frustrating. Honestly, it felt unnecessary for certain. I agree. Interesting, Water. Interesting. All right. A World of Ice and Fire is... Okay, so it's in like a weird spot where it's tied with D. All right, sounds good. Thank you for coming to the stream, Young Wolf. I'm going to put... Because it's like in the middle, I'm going to put a World of Ice and Fire in C. It's like it's tied for B and D, and there's some people that say C, so I'm just going to put it in C. I think that's fair. Also, guys, I need you guys to give me some prayers because my fantasy team has been undefeated till this point. So at the beginning of football, of the NFL season, we did like a mini fantasy football league for the channel, okay? And as to this point, I'm undefeated. But I'm very close to losing this week. Okay? We need Mike Evans for the Buccaneers to literally just get locked down tonight, okay? So that is a big key tonight. Big key tonight. All right, moving on. Fire and Blood. I think this is the book that I think I have the most love for this book. I personally think this is a good book. I recognize it's not an S tier, but I really love what this book introduced and a lot of the characters that we see and the way that you're able to make your own story with Fire and Blood within the confines of the overarching story. But I'm interested to see where you guys put Fire and Blood. It's going to hurt my soul if you guys put Fire and Blood below B, but we'll see. Why aren't the slavers ever the main bad guys? I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. I just realized that water was from like 2 days ago and it tasted so nasty. Guys, if I end up like just not coming to the next stream or videos stop, you know it was because of that water. But yeah, all right, so moving on. Fire and Blood. Why do I really love Fire and Blood? It's, in my opinion, has one of the coolest time periods, the Dance of the Dragons, and Aegon's Conquest, which I think all fantastic time periods. I think Maegor the Cruel's time period, fantastic. All while during this, you have this idea that there maybe be some maester fuckery or tomfoolery going on, which I really love in this book. And I love that you're able to kind of see the story in your own way. Where one person may see Daemon as this character, somebody else can see Daemon as a completely different character. And I love that the way we're able to look at that and how everything's not set in stone. It's not like A Song of Ice and Fire where this is what happened. It's more like we're able to interpret what we want. Now, I will say, Matthew, I would put Fire and Blood on the same level as Feast and Dance. I would, personally. I personally like, and I enjoy reading Fire and Blood more than Feast for Crows and Dance. Personally. Actually, maybe not Dance, but I do enjoy reading it more than Feast. I think when I did this ranking, I think I had Fire and Blood at 5. I don't remember, though. That is a good point, Ether. That's a good point. But, I don't know. Yeah, but it has the same annoying-ass anime character Daemon Targaryen, so it automatically goes down a couple of tiers. Fair enough, Ander. Fair enough. So far, let's see what we got here. So far, you guys are very split about Fire and Blood. You guys do not seem like you know where to put them. I will say, I think Fire and Blood being an A is, I don't know. I think it's probably too high to put an A, but I don't know. I think B is perfect for Fire and Blood. It's not great, but it's right there in the middle. I will agree with you, Matthew. I think the low point of Fire and Blood is the Jaehaerys stuff. I know a lot of people also don't like the Aegon III stuff, but I actually really like Aegon III. Would you say a feast... Wait. Would you say a Feast for Dragons or a Dance with Crows would be an A tier? Wait. I am confused by that, Ether, but I will say that neither one of the books, in my opinion, is A. But that is an interesting name, Feast for Dragons. But yeah. How much it matter, or it depends on how much like you give, and like you, Grease. I prefer clear stories, or if they are vague, that we were given clear clues about possible conclusions. So I admit it depends on how much you like. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Fire and Blood is definitely a book that some people will love, some people will hate. I think that's perfectly fine. That's both of the books combined. Oh, okay. If it was combined, I still don't know if it would be A. If it was combined, I think I'd feel more inclined to put it in A, but I don't know if I would. So you're telling me this motherfucker jumped off a dragon to another dragon and he was able to stab his eye? That's exactly what happened, Ander. Don't question it. Hey, Low Wang, I don't even, you know what? I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I used to do that all the time, especially when I was in high school. I was so bad at it in high school. Especially in junior year and senior year, I would just procrastinate homework as long as possible. Like, I would quite literally do my homework at lunchtime before the class. So, Damon is just a badass. Exactly. He's just a badass. Okay, you guys are putting it in C, which does hurt my soul a little. It does hurt my soul just a little. I'm just because I want to. We're gonna put it in front of World of Ice and Fire. That hurts my soul a little, but whatever. Okay, so you are fine, by the way, Ether. All right, so a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Now I'm very interested to see where you guys put this, because it's very short compared to everything else on this list, I guess, technically. I don't remember how long I've only read a World of Ice and Fire one time, and I didn't really like it that much. But I'm interested to see where you guys put this. This is the Dunk and Egg novellas, just kind of combined. So we'll see. For me, so this is where I would love a B minus B plus system. Because I think if I had a B plus system, I would put B plus as in Dance and then Fire and Blood. B, I think, would be Feast. And then I would put, I don't know. Wow, you guys think Dunk, really? I liked A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I really did. But I would not put it in A. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms for me would be around B. It'd be about B tier for me. I agree with Ander here. That's where it would be for me. Like, compared to, like, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, I think is like, how many pages is A Knight of the Seven Kingdom? Hold on, I should probably not do this. Okay, so that'll stay so you guys can actually see it. Let me go to my other thing. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. How many pages is it? It is 355 pages. That is quite a shorter story to have. I agree, Water. It should be much higher. Each tale on their own. First S, second A, third B. Interesting. I would actually, Ramiro, I would switch the second and the third one. I'd have the third one being A. Wish S was an option. I'm going to be honest. I did not think you guys were going to put it even close to S compared to, like, what it's on here, but Dag, you're a menace. You're a menace. Sansa deserves it. That's a menace. I love them, but I don't think I put them in A. Like, I think that's too high. On the same level of Clash of Kings, I don't know about that one. I get what you're saying, Lo Wang, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know about this list. I think this list is interesting, to say the least. Okay, we are gonna put A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms in A. This is your list. This is the list. This is the list you guys have created. Do you like the list? Do you not like the list? Let me know. What do you guys think about this list? But this is probably where we are going to end the stream. I don't know. I feel like Fire and Blood for me should be like in this area. I think A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms should be down here, and then I'd be okay with the list. But I don't know. I don't mind this list, but I definitely don't agree. Main series list is legit upside down. I don't know if I agree with that. No, Waterly, it's too late. It's too late. I'm not letting you people put Knight of the Seven Kingdoms in S. I'm not letting you do it. But yeah, thank you guys all for joining the stream. Thank you also for the super chat ether earlier in the stream. I appreciate that. And I will see you guys all in the next stream. We'll be having major Q&A stream on Wednesday. And also, we're having a video up. A video came out, I think, like, should be like 15 minutes ago, talking about Rickon. I know you guys love your Rickon. So that'll be in there, and you guys will get your normal video. So I'll see you guys Wednesday.